Wilsy ma'am? Wilsy ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Good
Yes,
evening.
can we begin?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, it's 5:30. We will begin. Other participants can
Yeah,
join
yeah,
in.
yeah. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this last session of ours, that is counseling strategies for managing adolescent issues. Today, I will be presenting to you creative strategies for managing adolescent issues, and also I will be talking to you about anger management. Am I audible to all? Hello?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So there are, when we come to creative strategies, there are three strategies that I would like to discuss with you today. That is art, role play, journal. And we all know that adolescents are extremely good in experimenting with the new and complex cognitions. And they are able to think abstractly and are generally able to understand symbols, metaphors, and other forms of creative representation. And this is one of the reasons that I chose, I thought of taking creative strategies, because many adolescents use artistic methods to express themselves and convey meanings about their lives to others. And I found that it is more appealing for them because they involve activities which are very much interesting and dynamic. So when we decide about, even though we know that this adolescents are very much interested in creative strategies, we need, as counselors, we need to be very uh, sensitive to their personal preferences, because some may readily engage in art or other drawing activities, whereas others feel threatened about it. Similarly, some adolescents feel relaxed and comfortable when writing or using journal or engaging in role play, whereas others will not. So this is the reason that we need to be very sensitive. We need to ask them how willing they are to engage in creative strategies. And when we use creative strategies such as art, journal, role play, daily log, why do we use this actually? Because what is the purpose of using these creative strategies? We use it in our counseling session because it will help them to understand and gain insight into themselves and change their behaviors by becoming more fully aware of the troubling emotions and the underlying issues. Because when they get involved in a creative way, it is easier for them to express themselves. So, and by doing so, they will gain insight into their troubling emotions and the underlying issues. So that way they would be able to express themselves well. And when in a counseling session, at times, the client is most likely to experience strong emotions, for example, anger. Okay? And as I said, creative strategies we use in order to deal with clients, in order to help the client to express better. So sometimes, as I said, there could be, it is more likely that they experience some strong emotions. And when you realize that your client is experiencing strong emotion, for example, anger, you might you can ask him, you sound angry. Okay? Can
Excuse me, Wilsy ma'am.
and
Ma'am, there are background noises coming. Can you close the window, your window,
okay,
room
okay, yeah,
window?
yeah, sure, sure, ma'am.
Disturbances coming. Yes.
Thank you. So at times you may experience that your client is going through client is expressing very strong emotions during the counseling sessions. So in such moments, you can even ask your client, you sound very angry. Can you draw that picture of how you feel emotionally now? Help the client to draw it, that emotional feeling that he was experiencing at that point of time. And when he start drawing, you just observe him. And once he's completed with the drawing, invite him to talk about that drawing, because drawing the emotional feeling currently being experienced can help him to talk about the feeling and the things that has contributed to it. So by expressing these feelings, the client is most likely to feel better with the more positive emotions emerging or positive feelings emerging. So that is the purpose of using art to explore the client's feelings. Is that clear to you? Or do you want further explanation? I hope you got it, how we can make use of art or drawing in a counseling session, especially when the client is going through, when the client experiences strong emotions like anger. So also we can ask the client to draw a self-portrait, just like how we ask them to draw the emotional feeling. So also we can make him to draw a self-portrait where you invite the client to draw a picture of himself. And this can be very useful in helping him to gain more insights and to explore the personal attributes, including the strengths and weaknesses. So when the client completes the drawing, it will really help him to visualize it, explore, and discuss about the conflicts that he's experiencing, the conflicting feelings that he's experiencing with his counselor. And even in self-portrait, the counselor can give feedback, as I said earlier, just like how we did in drawing the emotional feeling. The observational feedback is very important for the client to recognize or to identify his painful feelings and work on it. Another creative strategy is role play. Just like the client enjoys doing art or a drawing, they would also, most of the clients, adolescents enjoy role play too. They would really play it very creatively. However, some clients may become overconscious about it, and they find very difficult to engage in role play. So here again, you have to find out from the client. You have to talk to the client and find out how willing he or she is to engage in role play. So therefore, it is when the client is willing to do a role play in a role playing setting, it would be always helpful the counselor model the role playing behavior first and then encourage the client to join it, because by doing so, when you take the initiative to model that role playing behavior, the client would feel comfortable and feel supported, because he is going to he's taking a risk in experimenting a new behavior. So it's always good for a counselor to take the initiative to role play the behavior and then encourage the client to do it. How do we facilitate when once you see that the client is willing to do it, willing to engage in a role play? How do you facilitate that role play? You need to facilitate the role play. Otherwise, the client will not gain any insight about it. It would not make any difference. It cannot bring about a change in him. He may not gain any insight into it. What's the purpose of doing it? So you need to facilitate the role play. So how do you do that? While the client is engaging in the role play, you detect the underlying emotional feelings of the client by keenly observing the verbal and non-verbal behaviors. Okay, you need to observe the verbal and non-verbal behaviors of the client. By doing so, you will be able to detect what is the underlying emotional feeling that the client is experiencing while he is role playing. Then give him the observational feedback that suggests the underlying emotions to the client. For example, you might say like this, as the client is doing as part of the observational feedback, you might say, I noticed that while you spoke, you clenched your fist very tightly and closed your eyes. Or you may say, as you were speaking, your voice sounded very sad. So you see now, this is how we make the observational feedback, suggesting the underlying emotion to the client. This observational feedback, which the counselor, which the therapist gives, will enable the client to get in touch with the emotional feeling, which would otherwise might not be recognized because they are very painful. Because nobody wants to re-experience the pain. You know? So same way here, if you don't give the observational feedback to the client may not be able to get in touch with his painful feelings. And if he is able to do it, it would be easier for him to accept such emotional pain and then release it. And unfortunately, if the client, if they are, such issues can be resolved only when the client is able to accept such painful emotions. So it's very important. See, this is how we help the individual through role play. So we need to help him to process that. Okay, we need to facilitate it so that the client become aware of the pain, and with our presence, even though he may find it very threatening, but he would be able to withstand it, and gradually will be able to accept that emotion and release it. So this is how we facilitate the role play with the client when the client is engaged in a role play. And also this role play can be used to help the client, as we just now we saw, to get in touch with the intense or troubling emotional feeling, and also to practice and experiment with the new behaviors. Okay, they would be able to experiment with the new behaviors, and also to make choices. Because when they do the role play, they will come to know what is the difficulty and what is the advantage of doing it. And that can give them more confidence to make better choices. So this is how we help the client to engage in role play, to express himself. So now there is another creative strategy which is called journals. And it has been
Excuse me,
found.
madam.
Yes,
Madam, could you
yes.
give us an example of role? play, perhaps a previous case or
Role play. That's why I just now I explained, because a client who is which example
an
you mean?
example. I don't any example, madam, of a role play.
Yeah, maybe you are asking the client who is finding difficult, who has got a has to deal with an anger issue, for example. Then
Okay.
you can okay. I'm a little bit disturbed with the mic on. Right. Okay. An example which I can give you is client, maybe he is having an issue with anger issues. So here you can, as a counselor, you can first take the initiative of how to deal with it. You just first show him the model that new behavior, the role playing behavior which he wants to change. So when you do it, when you take the initiative, then you invite the client to join it. You encourage the client to join it, because how you are going to deal with it. For example, maybe the client having an issue with the mother, and how he can communicate with the mother in a better way, not in a very angry way. That is a behavior. Okay. So when you ask the client to do it, when you become, and then here you become the mother, or you become the client and let the client become the mother, and then you ask him to role play that. As the client engage in role play, you just observe how the client, when he talks to the therapist as the mother, how is he doing when he expresses himself. Maybe he is holding his fist tightly, or eyes closed down. Eyes must be closed when he just says something in a very abrupt manner. So as you talk, you can bring out this observation, as you can give this as a feedback. Your observation you can give as a feedback with the underlying emotions to the client. Because when you spoke to me, you sound very angry. Your voice was very angry towards me. So as you when you bring it to the notice of the client, then that will help the client to express or to disclose the issue that is contributing to that anger, to that particular emotional feeling. Have you got it? Is that
Yes,
clear to
madam.
you?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, yes, I got it. Thank you, madam.
So that's why I said role play, you can use it to help the client to get in touch with the feelings, and also to experiment with the new behaviors, to make choices in his life. And same way, another creative strategy which could be very effective in counseling the adolescents is the journal, because it's been found that
Ma'am,
yes,
before you move to the journal, I had a question.
all right,
Wanted to said
yeah, yeah.
the last slide, it says emotions to accept and release it. Could you do this?
Pardon?
This
Ma'am, the
how
question
to
is
accept and
how is
release.
Okay.
How is that process done? Yeah.
How this process is happening? Because when you role play, you are actually encouraging the client to express himself fully. Okay, you are not, you should give the space and freedom for the client to express it. Because the role play is something that you are, because that's what I said, adolescents often, they are very good in expressing themselves in a very creative manner. So that is why if role play, if the client is willing to role play, you can get him do it, and when he does it, you encourage him to express fully what he is going through, what is it that he is experiencing. So once he experiences it, that itself will bring catharsis to that. It brings naturally the catharsis, because we are giving him a chance to express it. But in case you find that the client is getting stuck, you just encourage him to do it, to express it fully. Because there is the client is visualizing another individual, there is another person there to deal to for the role play. So as he does it, you can encourage him to express fully, because it is, both of you know that it is a role play. So the purpose of this is to help the client to express himself fully, the troubling emotion. So once it is done, a catharsis can happen naturally, or if not, the therapist can, through can give that observational feedback to him and tell him what she observed while he was role playing. That's what I said. Sometimes when the client when you encourage the client to express himself, the client may hold his fists very tightly, or his lips would be very tight, or eyes will be closed, or sometimes the face turned red. So these are some of the observations that you notice. So bring it to the notice of the client, so that the client would realize that, yeah, this is I have the intensity of the anger. The client will become aware of the intensity of the anger. Once he becomes aware of the intensity of the anger, it is easy for him to talk to you what is it that is contributing, the issues that is contributing to that anger. Am I answering to your question? The way you asked me how.
Yes, ma'am. But just that the releasing part of that is the natural progression, is it?
Yeah, it often takes place as a natural catharsis. Like when the client comes in touch with get in touch with his feeling, the emotional feelings, and when you help the client to talk about that particular feeling, and naturally the client would be narrating the issues contributing to that emotion. So once the client is able to speak up about it or disclose it, then that would definitely give bring up some positive emotions within him.
Okay.
Are you not convinced?
Yeah. Yeah, just that probably I haven't.
You have not tried with that?
Probably it helps. It does help. I know that when you talk to people, you do feel relieved. So probably.
Yeah, maybe you can try it once.
Yeah.
With
Yes.
anybody, so just to see how it would work.
Yes. I haven't tried it. So maybe.
Okay, Angela.
Yes. Thank you.
So now maybe we can move to the journals. Journals is another creative strategy which proved to be very effective in counseling adolescents, because it has been found that adolescents they often good in writing diaries, which where they would record everything, every intimate information, personal and intimate information. They would just keep on writing everything in that, and therefore journal can be of a great use in counseling the adolescents. And another just like journal, we can even make use of daily log. Daily log also is something that is very, it is closely resembles to a diary that can be used to record one's subjective experiences of daily life. Because in a daily log, I have got a format of sample of the daily log. I will show you that, because it is somewhat, it is very much look like diary, but here you can encourage the client to record his subjective experiences, because what he is the daily experience of his daily life. And why do we do that? How does it help? Because once the client starts writing the daily log or maintaining the daily log, he can review it regularly, and this will enable him to reflect on his behaviors and attitudes and gain insight and thus explore more opportunities for positive change. So I just show you the daily log. Can you see it on the screen? Daily log.
Yes.
Okay. This is somewhat like a diary, and it has got, but only difference is that it has got particular headings. The client you can ask the client to record the daily events in the following headings. For example, what I did. So that is some of the headings are this: what I did, how I viewed my day, how I felt emotionally today, what are my relationship, how was my relationship or lack of relationship, and the things I learned from today. So these are some of the headings that is already there in the law, daily law. So you just give the client this and ask him to follow it, so that this will help him to when he keep on writing, when he keep on recording his daily events in this will later, at the end of the day, maybe he can just reflect on it and can see how did I behave today? What was my attitude today? And what are the things that I learned? So see, for example, what I did. Maybe just a few examples, just in simple words you can write. I got up, I had shower, I had breakfast, I went to school, and so on, something like that. Okay, simple way, simple things in a very simple way he can put it there. And how I viewed my day. Maybe he can say it was a good day because I could do many things today. But at the same time, if he finds that the day is not that so very pleasant, even that also he can mention there. My day was not that fine. I found it a very disgusting day. So now comes the next, how I felt emotionally. So when you look at it, when the client looks at it or when the therapist look at it, you get an idea of how the client, how each day of the client passed by. I felt great while having my favorite breakfast. So that is what I emotionally felt in the morning. But I felt very depressed when I thought of going to school. So that emotion, sometimes when you get up, especially on Monday morning when the client gets up, oh, I don't want to go to school. That's what the first feeling that comes to me. So I note it down. But when I came to the breakfast table, oh, I got something that I liked. So I enjoyed it. I felt very happy. But then again, that distressing feeling came up. The depressing feeling came up that when I thought of going to school, because I have today I have certain subjects which I don't like, or the teacher whom I don't like would be coming today to the class. So these thoughts are going within him. But when I reached school, I felt very happy. So that's another thing. So you see, it is not limiting to one feeling, one emotion, but it is moving. Okay, you can see how the emotions, the changing emotions are being changed at every time. So he is able to record it. When we ask the client to do it, the client also is in touch with what is happening within him. Otherwise, it happened, but I don't remember. When he comes for counseling, he say, I don't remember how it was. No? And sometimes they are not interested also. But this kind of daily log, if you give to the client, they would really make use of it. And also when it comes to relationship, sometimes they think that their mom and dad would be there at home when they get back from the school. Here when I came, nobody was there at home. So I felt very sad. I felt very depressed. Nobody was there. And until I went to bed, both of them turned up. Or the maid served food for me. So these are some kind of something that is, he is actually recording his subjective feelings. That is what he is going through. And another last point is things that I learned from today. That is very important. In spite of all this happening, all these things happening in my life, what have I learned? There could be something that I have learned today. So here I have given the example. Uh, Today I realized that not having social contact with my friends is as bad as not having any contact with my dad or with my parents, because parents were not there when he came back from the school. So when you give the daily log to the client, help him, teach him how to review it, how to make use of it, because there is a connection right from the time he woke up till he goes to bed. So help him to uh, look at it and do it in such a way that it would make some sense to him. That how did my day go today? How was it that how was I feeling all throughout my day? So it's very important. This could be very helpful for the uh, youngsters, I mean the adolescents. So because it would really give them some idea about some. It would really help them to be get in touch with what is happening, the emotions that is happening, emotions of the day, and also at the end what they have learned. What is it that they are learning from it? So try to make use of this daily log when you uh, counsel your adolescents. Then I think now, do you have any questions related to this now before I move on to the next topic, anger management? If you have no questions to be raised, then we will move on to anger management. So can we move on to the anger management then? All right. So the next one is dealing with anger. Dealing with anger. And there is a general consensus that adolescents have problem with anger control. As parents, as teachers, everybody knows that uh, they really struggle to control their anger. Especially parents. Every day you must be and you must be encountering this kind of issues with your adolescents. So it is very important that they learn to externalize the anger as a problem. Because how do you do it? You must ask them, what is this anger doing to you? So this is how you can externalize it. Because most of the time we say that I'm an angry person or he is an angry person. So you're owning up that anger. You see yourself as an angry person. But so it's very important. You must help the client or your child to externalize the anger as a problem. So when you help him to externalize the anger as a problem, then it is easy for them to work on it. So you should ask him, what is this anger doing to you? You said that almost every now and then you get into a fight, you use very abusive language. So what is this anger doing to you? So it's always may help them to externalize that anger as a problem. It is something outside them. And also you must make them understand, you must help them to understand the personal triggers and beliefs which result in inappropriate angry behavior. That also is very important because they should know the triggers. What are the triggers? And what is the belief? Not only the triggers, but there should be some belief that would result in an inappropriate angry behavior. So it's very important to do that. We need to help them to externalize the anger as a problem and also to identify the triggers and the beliefs resulting in inappropriate behaviors. And for this, there are 5 clearly identified stages in anger management for adolescents. There are 5 stages. So first thing is, you need to realize that you have the ability to choose. You can choose what is it that you, in what way you are going to respond. Okay, so first you make your client or you make your child realize that you have the ability to choose whether to get angry or not. We can choose whether to focus on the things we don't have control or the things that we do control. There are many things we don't have control. We don't have any control over the behavior of another person. Okay, we don't have control over the weather. Okay, we don't have control over anything that is happened as we go out. So there are so many things in our life we don't have any control. So likewise, most of the time we think that this situation made me angry. This person is making me angry. What he said made me angry. So, but you don't have any control on it. So you need to realize that you need to make your child or the client aware that, make him understand that there are so many things which you don't have any control. So now you must choose whether you have to focus on things you don't have control or focus on things which you do have control. Because we may not control anger, but we have full control over what we do with anger. That you must make them realize. You may not have control over your anger, but you have full control over what we do with anger. That I will explain to you as we go on, as we move to the next slide. See, here when I say you have control over the anger, you can be angry and passive, or maybe you can angry and very aggressive. So you can choose, or angry and assertive. So we need to empower ourselves, or we need to make our client understand these things, that their ability to choose. So that it will not come all of a sudden. We need to empower them by regarding that these options are just as choices. It is there, I have a choice. I can do it if I want, but it all depends on me. So here there are 5 clearly identifiable, I've been talking about the 5 clearly identifiable stages in anger management. The first one I already explained, it is you help the client to recognize that you have a choice. The second one is identify the angry response patterns. So each one has got their own pattern of responding to your angry feeling. Okay, some may scream, and some may throw objects, some may be expressing their anger through verbally abusive language. So you see, you need to help the person or the client to identify their anger response pattern. How do you respond? What is the pattern of your angry response? So help them, get them write it. This is how this is my anger response. I just scream and I throw objects. Okay, I don't care. So these are some of the ways, some of the anger response patterns. You help them to write it down. Then the next step is identify the personal triggers. That is very important. Ask the client, can you just identify what makes you angry? Because he may say that when I am I feel that I'm being teased, or when I make a mistake, or when I'm given something, I feel that I'm not competent enough to do it. I cannot do it competently. Okay, or waiting in a queue, or waiting in an assembly, or being in an assembly. Okay, all these things sometimes they identify as personal triggers. So it is very important for them to identify their personal triggers, not only their response to anger response patterns, but also the triggers, very important personal triggers. Then once the personal trigger is identified, now you need to identify the self-destructive beliefs which gives powers to these particular triggers. So trigger as such cannot do anything. There is some belief, your self-destructive belief that gives power to these triggers to act. Okay. Otherwise, yeah. Sometimes if the person who is who is in control of their anger or emotion, when they see it, yeah, for them it doesn't make, yeah, it's okay. Let me move. But it all depends on your belief. What self-destructive belief you have, which would give power to your trigger to act. Only then you would react to the situation. So it is very important to identify the self-destructive beliefs that gives power to the trigger. And the last one is you can choose your control options. I will be explaining this in the next coming slides. Okay, so these are the 5 identifiable stages. First one is you must recognize that you have a choice. You have a choice whether to how you are going to respond or react to your anger or a situation. Then identify the angry response patterns. That is very important. Then the triggers. Then identify the self-destructive belief which gives power to the trigger. For example, the trigger the self-destructive belief may be making mistakes. Making mistakes is a big thing for me. It's a disaster. I should not make mistakes. Or everyone should respect me. That's another destructive belief. So when a person having that everyone should respect me would always feel that, get angry when he feels that someone has teased him. Because nobody should tease me. I should be respected. Okay, so that is the belief. So it is that belief which gave power to the trigger, that being teased. Okay, then he just exploded. So that is how it happens. So the last one is choose the control options. Control options. When I say control options, how you can. There are some buttons like control buttons. When you press that control button, you are able to manage it. You are in control of your anger. So it is to be. That is what I mean by choose your control options. So now, and there is one more strategy which we can use, like help the client to examine the consequences of their angry episode. That also could be used as a very effective strategy, because that will help them to recognize the influence that reinforcing this undesired behavior. Help him to ask him, what are the consequences? Can you just write down what are the consequences of this here? Are these consequences making you feel good or sad? So that is really very, very important, because when the client becomes aware of this, he becomes aware of the consequences of it, then the chances are more to make a change, make a difference in this behavior. Then,
Wilsy ma'am,
yes,
there is a question for you in the chat box.
yeah.
Students sometimes read some kind of novel or any movie and compare their life with that. But in actual, they have very caring parents. Like, in the movie, they may believe, like, their parents are toxic. but in actual they are having very caring parent. Then how can we make them understand that? Because sometimes it is very difficult to rationalize their thought.
Because in certain movies they find that their parents are no, in the movie they may find very uh, can you repeat that question, ma'am?
Okay, ma'am. Sometimes
uh,
students read some kind of novel or any
yes,
movie and
yeah,
compare their life with that. But in actual, they have a very caring parent. How can we help them rationalize their thought?
okay. So so how does that that is affecting them? Because they themselves have very caring parents, and you mean to say that you, yeah, the question is,
They are in not in reality that believe what they are watching from a movie or a novel.
so are they behaving that way at home?
Rashmi, can you answer this?
So
I think, ma'am, what she's trying to say is that the children always think they have the worst parents.
they have the worst parents because yeah. So but the children, you mean to say that the children are when they think that they have the worst parents, so they feel that in the stories also it is something like that. So it is
Yes,
yeah,
but
all
the fact may
that
not be
support that
so.
became very support that becomes a supporting factor for the what they are experiencing at home. Is it that?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, because
Yes,
the
they
story.
believe what they read.
Yeah.
Or,
Okay.
or probably
Perception,
they have
think wrong
unrealistic
perception.
expectations.
Yes.
Because you see, most of the time, the children would have unrealistic expectations. Okay, unrealistic expectations because they think that your parent should be, my parent should be this way. My parent should give me full freedom. My parent should allow me to go. Wherever I like and what they should buy for me whatever I want. So there are certain expectations from the part of the parent, from the part of the child. So when they read such novels, they would since they have these expectations, they always think that yeah, it is true that my parent also is that. It is actually strengthening their belief, strengthening that irrational belief. So here, what you need to do is you need to help the client to bring them to a realistic, make their realistic expectations. You can ask them uh, when you see in the novels and books you read that this is how it is. So your voice is breaking, Rashmi.
Ma'am, am I audible to you? Because we are
No,
not able to
you
hear
are, yes, your voice is breaking.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, hello.
Ma'am, in actually they are accepting that they have very caring parents. But the society is having these kinds of things. They are worried about that.
Maybe you can ask them to write down what are their expectations. Eh? Help them to write down their expectations and ask them whether these expectations are realistic. Help them to analyze that. So most of the time they must be having unrealistic expectations. You got me? Can you hear me, Rashmi?
Ma'am, your voice is cracking.
Even your
Your
voice
voice
also
is
is
cracking. I think some
your
network issue is there in my side.
Probably she means the parent, the societal peer pressures, where some children are given a lot of gadgets and branded stuff. Well, caring parents who may not afford that, though are very caring, so still that is sidelined by the children and is not at all appreciated, and they are not able to understand.
yeah.
Probably that's what she says about society.
Yeah, you see, I was just remembering that in Preetham ma'am, when she took this her session, this point came, I think. So what she is actually what we need to do is, so some certain things children always try to compare their parents with others. When the other parents are providing them with so many gadgets and so many other things, and here I am not getting it. So you are just trying to compare your parent with that parent so that you are not you feel that your parent is an uncaring one. But that is why I said it is always important to help this child to think in a realistic manner. Ask them what is it that what are their expectations, and how these expectations really realistic. It is always good to make them, help them to teach them to evaluate their expectations, whether it is realistic or not. Because most of the time it is unrealistic, but when they realize that it is not realistic, at that point of time they may not accept it. But this kind of this kind of evaluation will help them to realize that later, that yeah, it is not a real need for me. It is not actually a realistic one. So that is very important.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yes. Ask me that.
So what happens is that when they see their friends having some gadgets, or when they see that their friends are having, they feel that their parents are not giving them, and they don't seem to understand why, when their parents can afford something, you cannot afford it. And if you can, and children are very smart, they know that you can afford it, then why are you not giving it to? Why are you not? They don't feel it's you cannot even, they don't even come to that level of discussing unrealistic. It's like if their parents can give them a particular gadget or whatever, why can't you give it if you can afford it? So that means that those parents are good and you are not good. So the discussion,
Yeah.
that reasoning ability to say realistic or not realistic,
Yeah.
I don't know, it doesn't even come to that level, I feel.
Yeah, it would not reach up to that level because they don't bother to listen to you. They only post the question that why can't you give me when you can afford to give.
Yeah, so the
It
question
is
is that, yeah, the
yeah,
question is only limited, why don't you give it to me? So if I
yeah.
say, is it really required, and also then why are their parents giving? They are also as educated as you are, so what's the difference? So
It
then it
is
becomes very difficult to have those type of discussions.
that is what that it all depends on our parenting style also. But right from the childhood, when we must be giving them whatever they ask for, they would get into the mindset that whatever I ask, my mother or my parents would give. So it all depends what kind of parenting style you must have used as you are bringing up your child.
No,
Okay.
ma'am, that's what I'm trying to
Wilsey
tell you,
ma'am,
that I have
once
not
again, Minal,
given.
Um,
Yeah.
once again. Wilsey ma'am, can I add on to this?
yes, sure, ma'am.
Yes, yes. Minal, I got to your question. This is something which I am talking from my experience working with adolescents. See, when we are
Okay.
talking about gadget, if a child is demanding and the child is comparing a parent just for the sake of gadget, it is not just in one situation. The child might be doing for everything. The way you talk is not like another parent. The way you dress up is not like another parent. So every other factor, there is a constant comparison that is happening. Okay, now you have a two option here, either to oblige with the adolescent, or another option is stand up with your point, being assertive. Okay, either you become a good in their eye, or you become maybe whatever they call. Even I have heard clients, parents, students telling their parents as monsters. Okay, this is the
Okay.
reality. This is the
Okay.
reality. Okay, now what is your goal? There is we saw in the initial session, adolescents are not able to think from a long term perspective. They can view things only for a short term. It is momentary pleasure for them. But as a parent, you are able to see from a long term perspective. For a
All
certain
right.
decision you may have to take for them, irrespective of whatever tantrum they put up to you, right? Like
So
simple thing.
is it that the child somewhere deep within feels angry towards the parent, because the parent is not obliging, because he cannot see why the parent is not giving.
If the parent was obliging and if the parent started saying no only when they entered into adolescence, then there is a deep anger. If the parent was assertive from the childhood, if the parent has started saying no and have given out reason and mentioned it like this is okay, this is not okay, and was firm from the beginning, I feel it is still easy to manage an adolescent. But if the no
Right.
has been started only from an adolescent, only when a child get into 11 or 10-year-old or 12, you can see
Hmm.
the rebellion is double.
Right, right. Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And here,
So,
to
So
add
what
on
I
to what
wanted to
you
understand, ma'am, is that when we say no, and the
uh,
child is somehow, reacts to say that, oh, for me, what has happened is the comparison is with my own brother, and for whatever reason, and for whatever reason their status symbol is, they may be giving their child some things. So the thing is that if your brother can give, why don't you give? You know. So sometimes I'm very lost because the comparison is in the family. So and I cannot say anything against my brother because he is my brother, and it's okay if he is giving his kid. I may not agree with it, but the comparison is like, okay, if uncle can give it, then why are you not giving it? If mama can give, why you can't give it to me? So it becomes very difficult for me to answer those type of questions, even though as a parent we have been very careful to say no. But this type of discussions get into thinking that is a child having an ill feeling for the parent somewhere, which is in his heart. Is it getting negative towards us somewhere? I don't know.
um,
So is it okay for him to feel like
Excuse
that?
me, Minil, can I answer your question? Because we have a similar situation. My
Yeah.
sister is a single parent and she's doing fairly well. And she tends to shower her kid with everything that that he asks. So we have the same issue at home.
Okay,
But
okay.
we are very reasonable. We can afford, but we don't think it is a good thing to give him everything he asks. So then we have
yeah,
made our peace. We reason with him. We reason with him, and we tell him, see, you may want 100 things, but you may not need it. And then we have accepted as parents that it is okay for you to think that we are bad parents. When you
Okay,
have
okay.
grow up, and when you have your own kids, probably you'll realize. And I hope you grow up and have kids. That's what we tell them. So I think you should be okay with being, rejected by your child. And
So
once you
that's
made
what
your
I'm
peace,
saying. It's okay to
then
be
you are
felt.
fine.
It's okay to feel that. It's okay to have that sort of rejection, right? It's okay.
Yes,
I mean, my
I
child
think
doesn't
it's
understand, and
normal.
it's okay.
Yeah, I think Miss
yeah, it is
Rose
okay.
can.
It is okay sometimes that the child to feel that being rejected, like for us to feel that being rejected by our child. But deep within, they realize that it is not that it is actually a need for me at that particular time, but since others are having, I also should want. I too want it. So the demand comes, and as Rosa ma'am said, if we try to say no to their demands right from the time of adolescent period, that is from 13, 14 years, then it would be very difficult to manage them. But if we have trained them from childhood, and we stick to what we have said. Because if I say no, you should stick to that. Because we should not just yield to their tantrums and then giving, then they can manipulate us later. So that has to be, that part we should be very careful.
But
Yeah.
will that
Thanks,
bitterness
ma'am.
remain for a long, ma'am?
Pardon?
The, the kids will have that bitter feeling towards their parents, and it will disturb the environment in the family. There is, some kind of unrest at home, and it affects the environment in the family. Is it okay? Because it will take a long time for them to realize that the parents were right, isn't it?
Yeah. It is most likely to happen that way. But you ask yourself, if you yield to this, if you're just going to respond to their all the demands, what is going to happen to my child? it is good for parents also to reflect sometimes. What is going to happen? They may not understand, as it will take for a long time for them to realize the situations. But as parents, we know what would happen in the long run. So it is good for us to reflect, what if I yield to this demand of my child, what would be the consequences? So in that case, to some extent, we can just accept their bitterness or anger for a while. But even if it goes for 1 week, 2 weeks, or maybe months, but uh, it all depends how you deal with the kids. But sometimes there is a tendency I have seen in the families that something happened, then everybody in the family will just keep him at a distance. No, that should not happen. Once it happened, once it is discussed and said it's all right, finished, then your approach should not be something that you should not carry on with that anger feeling, or that anger toward the he, because he asked me, he's not talking to me, he's not taking the breakfast. Yeah, he may not be, but as a parent, you should not keep him at a distance. You should not give up on him, because our approach should be still warm and caring, so that you would be able to have, that will create an environment where you can still have dialogue with him or conversation with him and deal with him, respond to his needs. Otherwise, for everything, once they realize that we are keeping distance, we are threatened by his reactions, then they would manipulate, they can still go further. So that should not happen as parents.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
So maybe I can, the last step for that is challenging and replacing the self-destructive behaviors. Here I am going to give you a few examples just to make you understand how you can challenge and replace the self-destructive beliefs of the client. Okay. Okay. For example, suppose the client is he identified his trigger as being told to do something, or someone is telling him you should be doing it, which he didn't like it. So he felt that I didn't like when my mom asked me to uh, uh, go and get the milk from the shop. I didn't like. I don't like someone telling me something. So this is the trigger. So he just got angry at that particular time. But now you should help the client. Yeah, this is what the trigger you identified. Now, what is the self-destructive belief in that? You help the client to look into the belief. What must have made me see someone's mother telling me, you go and get the, or you don't do it, okay, or you should be doing it this way. So this made me angry. What was the thought that was? What was it that going in my mind? So maybe like others do not have the right to tell me what to do. I know what to do. So that is the feeling. That is the belief that I have. I know what to do. Then why should others tell me? I don't like others to tell me. They don't have the right to do it. So this is already the belief that he has in this. So you need to help him to come up with a helpful belief or an alternative belief. Maybe you can just ask him, you said that when your mom told you not to do this, you got angry, and this is what you thought. She has no right to tell me. So what could be the alternative belief? Maybe when you just ask him these questions, he can come up with, yeah, I can accept it, but it is appropriate to say someone sometimes that this is not the way you should be doing. So that is how you can come up with a constructive or an alternative belief. or a helpful belief, then I can accept that is that in some situations I will be told what to do, and that is okay, that is appropriate. Because it is not that all the time when someone tells me I should get angry, I should be angry, or you should not. I should not consider it as a trigger that for a reason to get angry. Because it is appropriate. At times people can tell me what to do. That is fine. So once you help the client to come up with a alternative belief, then that anger can subside. I can give you another example also. Maybe sometimes they feel that I am teased by my friends, or I am teased by someone. So being teased, that is the trigger. So when I feel that somebody teasing me, or while I was passing, they both were talking together and they were just teasing me. So I felt being teased. So I react. I got angry. Okay. So here again, when the client narrates this experience, you can ask, what was it that going in your mind that time? What was the belief that you have? Is it that nobody should tease us? Is it something that is happening only to me, only to you? So there are other people should always respect me. This is what I have. I should not be teased by everybody. Nobody should tease me. I should be respected. So is it possible that you get respect from everyone all the time? Is it possible to get respect from everyone all the time? So the client will realize it is not possible actually. So make them convince that it is not possible to get respect from everyone, or it is not possible for everybody to behave in the way which you like. So it is okay. Sometimes people may be disrespectful, but I know I am okay. But as long as you realize that you are okay, so there is no problem. So you just help the client to realize. You need to ask him: is it always possible? Is it always possible that you would get respect from everybody? Others would stay away from your way. So these are things that are not possible all the time. Maybe your parents or your siblings may do, but what about the others? They may not be doing it. So you have now here again you must help the client realize that you have a choice. Here again you have a choice how you should be responding. But this this helpful beliefs or alternative belief will really help the client to get in touch with that, to realize that I have a choice. It is not possible that everybody should behave the way I want. So now, how should I, then in such situation, how should I act? So there will be a change in behavior. There will be a difference in the way he responds to that situation. So this is another example which I'm just giving you, how the triggers and how the self-destructive beliefs could be challenged and helped. And above all, you should make your children or the client realize that triggers cannot be stopped. It is natural part of our life. Okay? But what we can do is we can control our response to it as we choose. So any triggers, if you are very much conscious about people teasing you, that is not something you can't stop. It would naturally happen. But what you need to do is you realize that you can control it. How you respond to the situation. You have a choice for that. So make them always remind of their choice, their ability to control situation through their choices. The choices which they make, not that you are going to stop everybody teasing you, or you should, or others should stay away from your path, things like that. And now we come to the last point, that is control options. Now, how you can help your client. You should be giving some options for the client to have control on his anger. The first one is avoid triggers. How can you avoid triggers? When you realize that this is my trigger, this is when you identify your own triggers, you can leave the scene. You can leave from the, just to get away from your scene and go somewhere. Okay, when you realize that your friends are teasing you, instead of just reacting, you remember that you have a choice. So you just move away from the scene. So that can be one option. And there is also other options like identify the, learn to recognize the psychological symptoms of anger arousal. Maybe when I get angry, I sweat, I clench of my jaws or fist, or hair standing on my edge. All these are some of the, you help the client to recognize what are the psychological symptoms that you experience when during this anger arousal. So when they realize that now I feel my body getting heated, so it's better I move away from here. So these signals will prevent you to act on to that triggers. And some other exercises like deep breathing exercises, that will really help the client to be in control with their emotions. And sometimes it is always good also to visualize, help the client to visualize how you would be when you are calm, how differently you would act when you are calm. So that those kind of visualization will really give them a feel of it. Yeah, there are times I can visualize this I can remain calm, and when I am calm, this is how I behave. So help them to visualize how they would be, how different they would be when they are calm. And other thing that you can do, counting slowly, counting to 10, count to 10. Because sometimes this I have suggested to some of my clients, but they always say, "Ma'am, how can when I am in this, the fist of my rage, I simply cannot count. I simply cannot think about it." Yes, it is true. You can see this. All this may not be applicable for everyone. You should personally. You must know which one would be helping you. Maybe it is easy for me to just leave the scene. So if that is what is helping you, just go away from that place, so that your anger would be in control. Okay, and get a cathartic release. How do you do that? You can be done through journaling, or just talking to a friend, or talking to someone whom you feel very close to. So these are some of the options that you can choose when you are angry. And if they are not able to do this, they will inevitably build up this kind of resentful feeling, and their efforts to anger control may be undermined. If they are not doing this, you must all the time motivate, you must encourage the client to make use of these options. Otherwise, if they don't do it, this anger will mount up within them, and finally they would feel that they would say to themselves that I have no control. I have no control. Now, most of the time, this is what happens, because the clients or our children, they are not ready to do it. So when we give them some options like this, they are not willing to do it. So we need to empower them. We need to motivate them to make use of this skill, and just to see how things are happening to you, how different you become. So that is. It is very important that they learn appropriate expressions of anger. For this, they need to, even when they, for sometimes on certain occasions, they may just burst out in anger. So it is always good for always teach them to make use of appropriate expressions of anger. Just to talk to somebody and listen to others and validate their responses. I said like this. When I was fighting with when I was arguing with my classmate, this is what I said. You try to talk to another person or talk to a friend whom you feel very close to, and get that person's response. Validate your response. So that will also help you to help the children or help the client to change, or is rather than getting involved into any counterproductive argument. It is very important that you must help your client or your children to learn appropriate expressions of anger. So with this, I end my presentation on this particular topic of counseling strategies and anger management. And now maybe you can, if anyone wants to ask any questions, you may ask.
Ma'am, about the anger issues you were saying, sometimes the environment is so emotionally charged.
Yeah.
When your child gets really upset, and then you get equally upset, and then your partner, your husband gets upset. So there's so
Yes.
much of emotionally charged environment, and it is sometimes feels difficult to get out of that situation.
Yes, Akila, yes. So, you remember that when you also get emotionally charged, what happens to the child? So, there will be
It gets worse.
It gets worse, right? So, by now you know that adolescents they really have a control. They really have difficulty in controlling their emotions. But we as adults are not at that age. But it is true. It is very difficult for us to give this kind of when situations in situations like this to put our feelings in perspective. So what we can do is we can just move away from the situation and calm yourself. Once you calm yourself, you will be able to deal with it. Otherwise, once you also start arguing with the child, the situation would really go out of hand. Then there won't be any, the entire family will get affected. So when you realize that your child is getting into this anger mode, you just move away from that. Don't try to argue with him at that point of time. Maybe afterwards, when he is calmed down, you can just talk to it. You can just approach him and ask. So now let us talk about it. I noticed that you are very angry, but now let us talk. Can we talk about it? Can we talk about it? Just ask him. So if he is in a mood, when he is calmed down, and when you are also calmed down, you will be able to have a healthy discussion, a healthy talk. So likewise, you can resolve the situation. Otherwise, it can go out of hand.
True. I've noticed that. Yes. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah, because normally when he gets upset, if I get upset, then it takes a long time for me also to calm down. So
Yes.
when I
I
talk
know.
and I
Yeah.
calm myself, it helps to talk when he's calm.
Yes.
There's reason with him. Yes, he's
Yeah.
more reasonable than.
Even I have seen such situations happening in my own family also with my sister and my niece. That's what happened. I always tell them, you don't try. But at that point of time, when you find your child just being angry and using abusive words, you can't help than reacting to it. But I always insist my sister just move away from the situation when she does like that. Then later on, you can come back and talk about it. And you express your feelings, Agila. Always express what you felt when he shouted at you, when you get angry with you. Because that will make a change. because that will help them to understand or reflect on his own behavior.
Okay, ma'am. Yeah. Thank you.
Lavina wants to ask something, I think.
No, ma'am, I was thinking of a situation where I was taking a class and those children were getting distracted among themselves. At one point in time, I lost cool and I scolded the child, and the child talked to me after that. I mean, the adolescents. So I was thinking about Akila, like how she was sharing. Maybe my response could have been like waiting and talking to the child later on after the class.
Yeah. Often what happens is that when we find a child getting agitated or angry, uh, we react because we are threatened by it. We too get charged emotionally just because of that. We don't know what I would be saying, especially as Lavina said, especially when it comes to the class, when one of the students does like this, you simply don't know how to respond to that situation. So most of the teachers, they just react at that point. It is okay. It is sometimes it does happen, but then later on, before you can just call the child aside and talk to him.
Talk. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Instead of leaving the situation like that. Because you realize that you're mistake. I shouldn't have done it. I should not have reacted to that point of time in front of the class. Maybe I can call that child separately later and talk to him. So that would also help to mend your relationship.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Do they really understand the difference, even if we try and explain it? Is it Minal?
No, ma'am, it's not me.
Madam, it was me. I asked the question. How do
Can
you
you just
explain to
repeat?
an adolescent the difference between a want and
Your voice is breaking. Can you just repeat that question?
Hello,
Hello?
madam. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
just tell
I just
me.
wanted to know how do you explain to an adolescent the difference between a want and a need?
Difference between a want and a need.
Yes,
See,
yes. Because
there are,
at times you might be able to explain it to them and they might listen. But then, when they go to school and they meet their friends and peer pressure and, various other factors, it comes back to the same thing. I want this, I want that, they have this, they have that. Why can't I
yeah,
have it too?
yeah, just like Akila, I think, she asked about the gadgets, comparing. It is just like,
Yes, yes, yes.
it is, again, it is difficult to make them understand at that point of time, but it cannot happen when your child is in adolescent age. It has to
Mm-hmm.
happen before that. Because at
Mm-hmm.
that point of time, you can make him realize, do you really think that you need it? Will you have something else at home? Won't that be enough for you? So when they are children, you are able to explain things. But once they come to the adolescent age, if you try to do that, it is not going to be very effective. It is not that easy to convince them. So this has to happen uh, when as they are growing up. And also you need to stick to, if you are saying no, no, you need to stick to that. You should be assertive enough to, uh, sometimes you need to be very assertive when they come up with demands.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yes,
My
Vinay.
question is that sometimes there are some things which we have to keep telling repeatedly. For example, I want to give a specific example. Like, for example, after eating their food, I have told my son that you have to pick up your plate and wash your plate and keep. So, but I have noticed that so many times he just keeps the
So many
plate,
times
or
you
sometimes I really feel that he forgets it. He has forgotten to pick up his plate from the table or clean the table after eating his meals. So sometimes sometimes because I've told it so many times, I end up screaming, or being reacting, saying how many times I have to tell you that. But sometimes I wonder that do they really register it? I mean, sometimes I feel he has not even registered it. He's thinking something else and is walk. So is it that they don't register, or is it that they are smart enough and they say, okay, mama will do it if she doesn't find. So how is it? Is it that they genuinely don't register these things, or they're not important for them, so they don't register, like clean your bed, pick up your plate, put your clothes in order? Do they genuinely don't register these things because it's not interesting to them? And at that point, it becomes very difficult. If you say the same thing 100 times, you will, as a human being, lose your cool, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So how to deal with this?
See, your question is whether it is okay to repeatedly telling them what to do. Okay, it is okay to do that, but as you said, when you have to repeat a particular thing several times, you just lose your cool and you just start screaming. That is where we need to correct ourselves. We need to reflect upon, because adolescent age is at that particular age, it is very difficult to manage their demands and their way of functioning. So what we need to do is, even if we have to repeat it, you can tell it, you can express it in a very put it across in a very nice way, which they would be able to see. When you scream, what happens? Actually, your intention is to get into it. Okay, but
Yeah.
when you scream, what happens? Are you able to get in, do that?
Yeah, after I scream, he does it, but
Ah,
then there is that the environment is emotionally charged. No, you
yes,
screamed at
that's it.
me, and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So next time again, he would repeat it. He would not do it. He would let mama scream. Then I will do. Anyway, she is screaming. Let her scream. Okay. I have heard adolescents saying that. Anyway, she scolds me. Then why should I go on time? Why should I reach home on time? I wander around here and there. I go with my friends here and there, and then I slowly go home. See, they are aware that you get annoyed, you get angry, you get annoyed. You would say something, so they are expecting it. So once you scream or you shout, the situation is not going to be changed. There is no change going to happen with your son or your daughter. So then, even if you are repeating, say that, come Baba, please come and help me. Put across in a very nice way. But or sometimes it is good to express also. See, I have a lot to do. Please, can you please come and help me? So make them under. Please see that you come and help me. So I have seen a friend of mine who is doing that, because she has all three boys, and she knows that there is no one else to help. But she trained them in such a way that she tells them, "See, I am all alone at home. I have no one to help you other than you. Please come and help." But she always tells me that she has to remind it while they are having dinner. While they're having food, she says, "See, after the food, please don't run away to your room. Please come and help mama." So it's done. So it is she's repeating it every day, almost every day, but it works. So here we
Okay.
need not have to scream. When you scream, as you said, the whole entire environment becomes emotionally charged, and he may do it, but not very happy. So
Okay.
don't take it as something that I have to repeat it every time. So it's okay. After all, they are our children. We cannot give up on them. So that is the only option that we have to keep our family environment good and smooth running.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, ma'am.
Is there any other question? Any more questions? If not, we will
Sister,
wind up.
sister,
Okay. Yes, Radhika.
uh,
Come on.
when we were also adolescents, uh, of course, a very long time back. But our parents, though my parents were working, they had their own life where they, they had, like, we were not the center of their life, you know. Now, children are, even if you have one or two children, the parents are just, like, parenting is so difficult now, and
Yeah.
I can, that you are bound to read up on it and listen, discuss, and yet find it still difficult when there are so many who may not have the time to do it. I just want to understand why. Of course, I do know, but from your perspective, what is the major difference between us? Because, Meenal just said, or Akila was talking about a little incidents where, you know, uh, involving them in chores. Like, you felt like you were part of the team. When we were growing up, we felt part of the team, like the youngest, being the youngest in the house, automatically somebody rings the bell, you run there or pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Those days were landlines or things like that. Or if not, actively involved in the kitchen because there was already somebody there. But what I'm trying to say is, somewhere here I feel a complete disconnect. Could it be, like, why should I do it? Like, they are not a team player in the house. I feel that way. Maybe not everybody, but this is what I've noticed. What could be the reason, and how to make them more involved?
Yeah, Radhika, as you said, you often find very difficult to get the children involved in the chores, no? So
No,
what
because they don't feel
they don't,
involved
yeah,
in the part of the chores. They feel like it is not that.
why should
When they
I?
want something, they demand a lot. But
Yeah.
they don't, like, even if you tell them, okay, you save on electricity, switch off the fan or switch off the geyser, be careful with this or that, that ultimately it affects the family's income. So that, you don't see that. Yes, they're preoccupied with a lot of distraction, but when constantly you're reminding them over the years, somewhere you feel that there will be a change, but that doesn't is not seen much. That is why I asked.
Maybe you can try this way. You can give a responsibility to see every day you have to switch off this geyser before dinner or before we. So maybe you can enter certain responsibilities. Maybe you can try with that. Because as most of you felt that you need to remind them every now and then and almost every day. So it would be good if you try with giving them some certain responsibilities. So this is your responsibility. Okay, so maybe you can try with that. Just see how it would work. Because as you said, it looks like why should I? I'm not bothered about it, even though it is affecting the family income. I don't care. And you said that in our time we are more conscious about we are quite aware of the income or the financial situation of our own family. But nowadays, parents hardly speak to them about whatever they ask. You would want to give to them. So they don't care about the money when it comes to money matters. They don't bother. Yeah, they would say like that kind of attitude. But maybe in this getting them involved in the house chores or to make them more uh, do to be focused on certain things that is happening in the house. Maybe you can just to try. I can only tell you to just try with that. Giving them assign certain responsibilities to them. If you have two children, just give them certain responsibilities. Give one some responsibility and assign something to the other one. So that way you just try because we need to be very creative in managing our own and addressing the issues of our children. Otherwise, we simply get trained off by what is happening at home. So,
Yeah, and another
uh,
question was, thank you, but another question is, adolescence is supposed to be till